Hi folks, so another Brian video, and this time we'll look at the little modifications that I made to the car before it was killed by a drunk driver. So from the top, Celica's look, to me actually, they're quite a nice looking car. I think they've aged quite well, and I think what sets them apart is that the shape has become perhaps rarer. You know, that sort of swoopy shape has perhaps become rarer with cars becoming more sort of sculpted and muscular and with more body kit sort of add-ons to them. You know, something like Civic Type R stands out, but a lot of modern hatches and coupes look quite bulky and they've got a lot of add-ons to them. I quite like the relatively clean swoopy line of a Celica, and it's quite unique. I think it's aged well, but the one thing as standard is that they're quite tall. There's a bit of an arch gap. They just don't quite do it for me in standard form. So one thing that I knew from the outset I'd be doing is lowering the car and putting some spaces on it. It's kind of a go-to with almost any vehicle, isn't it? They all look better lowered and with spaces. So I put some Eibach Pro Kit springs on it. I've had these on a number of cars. I consider them excellent, and I think they're lower. It's pretty subtle. I think it might be 20 millimeters or something, but yeah, nice look. They put the stance exactly where it needs to be. And to add to that, I put some 17 millimeter front spacers and 22 millimeter rear spacers. They were supplied by Stuart at Freaky Part. The spacers kind of do what they say on the tin, don't they? There's not too much to go into on those. They make the car look better. They're either for you or not. Some people just will not fit spacers to their car. I've used them on quite a few different things without issue, so happy fitting them to my car. Make it look better. Do they make it drive better? Don't know. I didn't do them in isolation. I did them at the same time as the springs. Perhaps they allow the car to stay slightly flatter. Perhaps they increase the upper levels of grip slightly, but I don't know. It's kind of for me, it's an aesthetic thing rather than a performance thing. So those are what I put on. The springs, I've always found Eibach to be quite forgiving and quite soft, which is why I like them. But at the same time, when you load up the car, they give it a slightly sportier feel. Now with these, they gave it perhaps a slightly harder rear than I expected. I kind of, if I fit Eibachs, I expect it to retain the OEM comfort. Whereas in this car, they seem to firm up the rear and slightly soften the front, perceptively to me anyway. I'm not sure what the actual spring rates are, but in terms of feel, the front felt a little bit softer, the rear felt a little bit firmer. I expected them to sort of negate that with the, you know, the progressively wound spring or whatever they call it. But yeah, it felt a little bit firmer, slightly less comfortable. In turn, with it stiffening the rear relative to the front, improved the turn in further, so the car drove better. At first, when I first fitted them, it was very soon after I bought the car, and I had on it the tyres that the previous owner had fitted, which were garbage budget pieces of crap. I don't drive cars with budget tyres on, so regardless of the fact that they were new, I put some other tyres on. And before I fitted my own tyres to the car, I was like, have I ruined this car? I'm a bit of an old fart really, and it can easily feel too stiff. So probably fine for most people, but just for me, I'm quite perceptive of, you know, low speed ride and stuff like that. And with those crap tyres on, I was like, is it just a little bit too firm? But happily I put on my own tyres, and the ride was absolutely fine. So yeah, nice combination, really nice combination. The Eibachs and the spacers, lovely thing. Just made the car flow even better, slightly pointier, and the damping was still good. You could tell that the springs perhaps weren't quite as well matched to the rebound of the damping. If you go over a bump, it kind of just takes a touch longer to settle. That said, everything apart from that with the ride and the way it went down the road was improved. So you can't have your cake and eat it unless you're doing a matched spring and damper combination, and that was just with the OEM T-Sport dampers. So yeah, big plus. If you just want your car to look slightly better, the Eibachs and the spacers are a big win. Next thing, and I touched on it in the last video, was I fitted some StopTech Sport brake pads at the front, some Pagid OEM spec pads at the rear, and I changed the brake fluid for some ATE Super 2000, whatever they call it, Super Blue by new name and gold now. And I kind of expected it to transform the brakes. They didn't feel good at all. In fact, they were dreadful. It improved things, but they're still the weak link. They really are. So it's not the pad's fault. It's not the fluid's fault. It's just the car. Everything's in good working order, by the way. It's not that there's a problem. It's just that these don't have very good brakes. And I think, as I mentioned before, I'm pretty sure it's a master cylinder and servo combination. Not sure how to solve it. Perhaps a bigger master cylinder would be helpful. Just need to do some investigation. So more on that down the road. But yeah, improve things, but hasn't solved the issue. Next thing I did, in fact, something I did before that, was the stereo, the infotainment system. Of course, the M140i had a really great infotainment system, the Pro Nav and the Harman Kardon. What a lovely combination. Of course, you can get a higher quality audiophile system if you spend a lot of money, but for me that was superb. Both in the M4 and the M140i, really, really great to use. iDrive, enjoy it. Apple CarPlay on the BMW didn't work for me very well, but I really enjoyed iDrive, and the Harman Kardon was wonderful. So one thing I knew when I was going to sort of try budget motoring was I definitely wanted to just keep a bit of budget aside to spend on the infotainment system and the stereo. So I fitted a Pioneer Apple CarPlay doodah. I'll dig out the name of it and stick it in the comments below. But ultimately, it's a touchscreen Pioneer system that integrates really well with the iPhone. And to be honest, I find that a better integration and a better system than iDrive even. I just think it's perfect. It basically does exactly what CarPlay does. It just puts your phone on the screen in your car, which does everything you need, which to me is a bit of a revelation. A slightly older car missing all the mod cons becomes bang up to date with a simple addition. I bought mine second hand. I think I paid 180 quid, probably less, maybe 170. And for that level of expenditure, of course, I had to buy like a fascia adapter and some wiring adapters. So I don't know, 200 quid, about that, all done. What an improvement, transformative. If you've got an older car with an old stereo or even just a simple CD player with Bluetooth, get yourself one of these. They transform the car for very little money. So yeah, it's 10 out of 10, no doubt about it. The one now downside is you've got to plug it in, but like, it doesn't matter, does it? You're not using your phone anyway when you're in the car. It'll charge it while you're doing that anyway. So, and then everything on your phone is just on a screen in front of you. It's great. And this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but I've had relatively modern cars for a while, and sort of the ability to do that with a fairly old car is excellent. So yeah, what a great way to spend a couple of £100 on your car. On top of that, I fitted a small Class D Pioneer amplifier, which doesn't take power from the battery directly. It takes it from the head unit. Not sure how it works, but it works. And I fitted some in-phase component speakers at the front, 6.5 inch, and some coaxial, I think they're called, speakers at the rear, also 6.5 inch. On top of that, I fitted an in-phase, what's the word that they use for it now? Well, it's an amplified subwoofer. It's got the amp within the sub, to try and give a bit of bass as well, and put that in the boot quite neatly. I'll drop in some videos so that you can see how I did it all. Nice, neat installation, not visible unless you lift the panel in the rear, which is nice. And in the car, it looks all but the little tweeters looking slightly different. It looks OEM. You can't tell the difference. I don't really like aftermarket stereos to be in your face and quite clearly modified. So yeah, nice, neat, subtle install. It's a big improvement, but I think altogether, with the head unit included, I think I spent getting on for £600, and I think my expectations were probably a bit high. Yeah, I probably expected it to sound better than it does. I did do quite a bit of sound deadening and tried to really think out how I did it as well. So I don't think it was the lack of sound deadening, albeit, you know, the BMW system is obviously much better integrated. They've thought about the acoustics more, and it's probably a more solid car to bolt the speakers into, etc. But I gave it some thought. I took the advice of the place that I bought the stuff from, and it's an improvement. It's more powerful. You can listen to your music at a higher volume. It's just not the best quality and sound that it has, you know, compared to the Harman Kardon. It doesn't have that richness. It doesn't it just doesn't have the same feel to it. But perhaps I was a bit naive in hoping that it would achieve anything like the same audio quality and feel. So yeah, the stereo itself, the CarPlay from Pioneer, 100% recommend it. I think the audio system could be improved upon. It might be that to do that you have to spend more money, and perhaps my expectations were wrong, but I've improved it. It's acceptable now. I can listen to music at a higher volume. Important for me going to the gym. I like to sort of get myself motivated with some music. But yeah, I just wouldn't necessarily say, hey, everybody go out and buy these speakers and this amp and things. It's improved it, but I'm a bit underwhelmed by the overall improvement for the money. What else have I done? Tyres. Yeah, when I bought the car, it was on some crap. I can't tell you what they're called. Black Lion. I mean, yeah, they were garbage, absolute garbage. So I didn't want a really sporty tyre on this. I felt that on the M140i, I used a series of quite sporty tyres, and I've got a feeling that getting old as I am, and I'm old beyond my years, a nice road tyre is better suited to my daily driver than a sporty tyre. So the M140i needed a lot of grip because it was really fast. The Celica doesn't, because it's not. And so I used a tyre that I thought would sort of be well balanced between being a nice tyre, so comfortable and quiet, and a tyre that would feel really good, but not perhaps deliver ultimate grip like a sporty tyre. So I used a tyre called the Maxxis HP5 Premitra, and I've probably done all sorts of terrible things to that name, but ultimately it's called a Maxxis HP5, you'll find it. And the reason I chose this was because of the tyre reviews, tyre test that they did. Summer tyres, albeit not performance tyres. I think it was the 2020 summer tyre test that they did in a fairly small size. I think it was 16s. And so they sort of covered, or rather he did, Jonathan, he covered these sort of road tyres. Not ultra high performance, probably not even high performance, just normal road tyres that covered a lot of bases and are available in smaller sizes. And the Maxxis came top in both dry and wet subjective handling. So for me, in this car, with it not being terribly fast, it's really important how the car feels, but not necessarily that important how fast it would be against the clock, the ultimate grip. So and so I selected it on that basis. It got really good subjective feedback from Jonathan, and it sort of got an all right all-round review, and they're well priced as well. So I took a punt on that basis, and they deliver exactly that. They feel really good going down the road. They feel nice and direct. The car responds really nicely. They don't do anything untoward. And on top of that, I was actually surprised by what a nice tyre they are. I think it's because my comparison point is kind of like Continental Conti Sports and, you know, Michelin Pilot Super Sports and stuff. I'm used to quite a hard tyre and quite a noisy tyre that delivers ultimate grip, whereas they're sort of quite comfortable and quiet. I'm so old, but they feel really nice on the car, and they've improved the car no end. So yeah, if you're looking for a smaller tyre size for a daily driver and you want the car to feel good and be nice and comfortable, then yeah, Maxxis Premitra's really good tyre. Okay, so beyond that, everything I did was just maintenance, I think, unless I've missed anything big. I did lots of little small mods here and there, but you know, I'm just improving it. Things like headlight bulbs and stuff, you know, as you could expect from a 15-year-old car, the headlights aren't great, and I like to see where I'm going. So, but yeah, stuff like that, lots of maintenance, got it just up to the standard that I wanted it, and then got written off. So now I'm doing loads of stuff all over again with this car, which I'll show you down the line. But anyway, yeah, those are the mods I did. I think in all the cases I'd recommend them, with perhaps a little bit of conservatism over the stereo. Don't really know how good that was, but all the other stuff great. And the old Pioneer, fantastic, get one in your car. Okay, so the next video is going to be introduction to Brian's replacement, which is this car, which as you can see is a Celica, and you'll never guess what colour it is. So until the next one, stay well everybody, and I'll see you next time.